Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. My name is Kara, and I'm a holistic health practitioner for both people and pets. After working for years in the conventional medicine field, I realized that while our lifespans may be getting longer, our health spans are rapidly shrinking. And when it comes to our pets, both their length and quality of life are decreasing. When I turned to functional medicine and a more holistic approach to health, I saw dramatic improvements for my pets, myself, and my patients. Join me each week as I merge natural health for people and pets by focusing on the root cause of disease and applying raw, real remedies that you can use to improve overall wellness for every member of your family, including the furry ones. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. This week's guest is Dr. Erin O'Connor. She is an animal chiropractor and a pet nutritionist. She specializes in holistic wellness for pets, integrating chiropractic care and raw feeding to promote optimal health in dogs and cats. Dr. O'Connor owns Vitality Animal Chiropractic in Aurora, Illinois, which provides care to dogs, cat, horses, and exotics, and also brings her services to Autumn Green Animal Hospital in Geneva, Illinois. Beyond her hands-on practice, she co-founded FarmCraft, previously known as Farm to Bowl, with fifth-generation farmer Louis John Slagle, producing premium raw pet food. In addition to all of that, she somehow finds time to volunteer her services to local wildlife centers. This was such an excellent conversation, and I learned so much about animal chiropractic care as well as FarmCraft's very unique structure, which I really love. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and let's get to it. All right, we are back and joined by Dr. O'Connor, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. And I want to start off by asking, what made you decide to specialize in chiropractic work? Because I've watched so many of your videos. You're clearly very passionate. So can you tell me how you chose to focus on this?
So I am actually a DC animal chiropractor. You can be a DC animal chiropractor, doctor of chiropractic, or a DVM animal chiropractor, doctor of veterinary medicine. So I went the DC route. So I actually, during undergrad, I was majoring in biology and my concentration was in pre-vet. And halfway through my freshman year, I got hit by a drunk driver. And I was pushed into both the van in front of me and the car in front of it. My car was literally the cream filling of the car accident. So I didn't have any broken bones, but I had a lot of problems after that. I could not turn my head. I had a lot of pain. It was pretty bad. Really pain just everywhere in my body. And so I saw about every doctor you could think of, MD, DO, PT, DC, neurologists, like you name it. I saw them and I just didn't have any good answers. One said, take these 3 pain meds with every meal 3 times a day. I was 18 at the time and I thought, well, I want my liver and kidneys to be functional by the time I'm 30. This doesn't sound like a good idea. Another said we could put a shot of local anesthetic in your head once a month. And I have no problem with like needles or anything like that. But I thought like, this doesn't sound like a good idea either. I want to be able to feel the whole right side of my face and just not numb it every month. Another one said, you just got to live with the pain. Another one said, here, take this buckwheat pillow and sleep on that at night. That's the best I can do. It felt like I was sleeping on gravel every night with the buckwheat. And the chiropractor was the one that said, hey, you have been in a major trauma. You just have to give it some time and we're going to get you some relief. And I thought, well, wow, this is like my only, like in my mind, valid thing that I can do to actually get better and not just live with all of these problems the rest of my life. And so I did exactly what they said. I continued my care and I started seeing relief. And so I thought, wow, like this was really the only good option for me. Maybe I should look into what goes into being a chiropractor. And it pretty much was all the same prereqs. And I really did have a difficult time deciding which school to go to, chiro school or vet school. And so I shadowed both professions, and in the end, the deciding factor was the chiropractors all just seemed happier with what they were doing. And so like some of the vets that I shadowed were a little grumpy, and I was like, well, I don't want to be grumpy the rest of my life.
Oh my gosh.
I want to do something that I really love. And when you would talk to the chiropractors, they would all have like these big smiles on their faces and saying, yeah, this and that. And just willing to help me in any way and tell me about all these different cases they had. And so I said, I want that. So I
Yeah.
decided to go to chiropractic school with the intention of working on people because I did not know animal chiropractic even existed at that point. Um, so I had already taken a bunch of vertebrate anatomy classes in undergrad. So I was like, well, I will just add in some human ones and I'll be good. So I went to chiropractic school, and the second trimester in, most chiropractic schools are in trimesters going year round. So you have 10 trimesters. I saw a poster hanging in the hallway that said an animal chiropractor was coming to speak. And I thought, whoa, like, what is this? I did not even know this was a thing. And so I wrote down the date in my calendar and said, I need to attend that. I did. And from then on, I said, this is what I'm going to do. So
Oh,
it allowed me to do this new profession that I so loved that gave me my life back and then still have the ability to work with animals. So it was kind of that perfect combination for me. Um, so that's how I got into
oh my
it.
gosh. That is so amazing. And what a story of like transformation, right? That wasn't even your path to begin with. And then
Yeah.
you found what you were supposed to do. That resonates a lot with me because over the years of working in conventional medicine, so I started out as an emergency room RN, went back to school, became a nurse practitioner, went back to the emergency room, and in the last few years, I made my way to the ICU. And working only in critical care, of course, I see the sickest of the sick and the people that need to be stabilized on one hand. On the other hand, I see a lot of people with chronic illness who have
Right.
been to every specialist, have tried every pill, have been told, I can't help you, go see this specialist over and over and over. And by the time they get to me coming back into the ER because they're not getting pain relief or they're having a flare or something, drives them there. And it's so heartbreaking that I can barely offer them anything other than condolences and call your specialist back, right? And I realize now that seeing that was pushing me toward finding something better for a really long time. Of course, what tipped me into the holistic animal space was my dog. And that is what allowed me to find functional medicine for people. So now I'm doing functional medicine for people. So
Awesome.
it was very full circle, but I have seen firsthand what you went through. And I'm so glad that you found somebody who was able to say to you, pause,
Mhm.
give it some time, let
Yeah.
your body heal, and then let's approach this when you have less inflammation. And that really inspired you. So I love that so much.
And it just goes to show you could turn something really bad into something really good. So, what do you do with the things that happen to you? So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So then what about the nutrition aspect? Because that seems very
yeah,
separate, even though we
yeah.
know that they're paired together in like in
Uh-huh.
kind of technical terms, right? They're not the same.
Yeah. So when I started my animal chiropractic education, I thought to myself, I'm going to have clients and they're going to be asking me, what do you feed your dog? What should I feed my dog? And so I started my own independent research in the dog
Mhm.
food industry. And the more that I researched the dog food industry, the more that I wanted to stay absolutely away from it. The kibble, the
Yep.
canned. I saw what was actually going into those. It was, I couldn't believe it. And
Yeah.
what things were allowed to go in our pets' food. I just was like, I don't want to touch this stuff with the 10-foot pole. So
Yep.
that led me into starting to research raw food, even just freeze dried food, just more real food. And so I started my own dogs. I switched my own dogs over to that from kibble.
Mhm.
And then I, of course, opened my practice and everything. And all of my clients that were bringing in raw fed dogs, they just looked super healthy. They had bright eyes, they had shiny coats, they didn't have laundry lists of problems. And the dogs with kibble, it was almost always, yeah, yeah, just a
And a
huge
list 10
thing.
miles long. Yeah.
Yes, it was ear infections, allergies, hot spots,
Yeah.
yeast, just all of the things, periodontal disease, all of the
Yep.
things. And I'm going, well, this is it's pretty obvious which food is actually supporting health. And even if you're feeding the best of the best kibble, it still is a processed food. Kibble is still kibble. is still kibble.
Yep.
So it would be like us trying to choose which fast food restaurant is going to make us the healthiest. Is it Wendy's? Is it McDonald's? Is it Burger King? And
Mhm.
they're all fast food. So
Yep.
um, you just have to do real food. And so that's what I started discovering. And so I continued to do my own independent research. And then I also thought, well, I should really create more of a strong foundation for this so that I could provide the best guidance. And so then I started a nutrition program. So that really gave me a lot more foundation and solidified a lot of things. And that was back in 2013. I think I completed it in
Yeah.
2014. So it's been a while now, and it's been amazing seeing the health of dogs and cats change on just eating real food. So eating
I love it.
what nature intended. So
That's awesome. I love that it's so integrated into your practice and it's clearly so important. I know we're kind of skipping around a little bit, but
totally
can tell
fine.
me, does diet truly matter if animals are coming to get adjusted, or does it feel like a separate aspect of health?
Oh yeah, I can definitely see the difference in response to care. If a dog is eating real food, a raw diet, even cooked diets, freeze-dried diets,
Yeah.
anything that's real food, not processed food, compared to the dogs on kibble and canned. And especially if they're eating kibble and canned that have a bunch of inflammatory ingredients in them. And we're dealing with a condition that is inflammatory in nature, like a disc injury, a limp, you name it. There's a ton of conditions out there that are inflammatory. Um,
Hmm.
that just makes the healing process slow down. So I try and keep that as part of the guidance that I give when I'm working with an animal chiropractic client is if we change over to the food to something healthier without these inflammatory ingredients and unprocessed, your dog is going to respond better. So it does make a difference, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I would assume as well, especially with the inflammation. The root cause of most disease is inflammation
right.
and poor energy. And it's so
Uh-huh.
it's why I try and stress to all of my clients and to everybody that I'm just randomly answering on the internet if I'm
Yeah.
on Facebook. And I say, like, you need to think about fresh food because if you're not putting good nutrients in, then you can't expect it to show outwardly.
Yes.
Anything could be an eye disease, could be chronic GI conditions, thyroid disorders. All of these things tie back to inflammation and nutrition. And it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy how we don't realize that because for so long the normal has been, let me just pluck this off the shelf and pour it into a bowl. And it's the
Right.
same for people too. I've
Mm-hmm.
been seeing it for far, far too long.
Yeah,
Far
and I
too
mean
long.
you have cell and you have tissue turnover all
Hmm.
throughout your life. So what building blocks are you building those cells and tissues with? If you're choosing just whole foods, raw foods for your dog or cat, it's just going to make them so much healthier. And even sometimes I'll have a raw fed dog come in with a major condition going on. And just because they're eating a raw food diet, they're at an ideal weight, they're doing all the great supplements, all the things, sometimes their response is so fast that I'm like, holy cow, you're way ahead of the game compared to most patients because they're doing
Yeah.
all of that. So it does make a difference in the long run. It's so much easier to maintain all of that. And then if something does, a little bump in the road comes along, an injury, a condition, whatever, it's going to be so much easier to recover from just because they've been doing all that work for so long.
Yeah. I truly have not found a single person or specialty or anything in this space that did not also emphasize the importance of nutrition. It is everywhere and it is everything. So I love that it's so integrated into your practice. It's so amazing. So then, in terms of adjustments in chiropractic care, how can that benefit our pets? This is one thing that I truly have no experience with. I've told people I think you should go see
Yeah.
a chiropractor, but I've
Uh-huh.
never seen one myself. And I've
Oh,
never had an
wow.
animal who has needed one. So, I just don't know too much about it, which is, I think, why it fascinates me so much. So,
Uh-huh.
what kind of things can you help pets overcome with chiropractic?
Yeah. So I would argue that every pet should get adjusted at least a few times a year. It's going to make sure that everything in their body is moving as it should. So a lot of times our pets are so stoic. They might have a little something in their back, and if they love playing ball, they're still going to play ball even if they have that little thing in their back. So that little thing in their back can turn into a full-blown disc injury if it's sitting there for a long time and they have that perfect movement. So chiropractic here can really give a good once over, make sure everything's moving as it should and functioning as it should. So it allows them to just maintain better health, even better movement as they get into their golden years. I mean, my two my first two dogs. So my Italian Greyhound, she still was hiking until her last 6 months of life and hiking like 6 miles. My Border Collie is
Wow.
almost 16. We just came back from a hiking trip last November. So, so it allows dogs to continue to do things like that. Um, as for conditions, any sort of musculoskeletal condition, neurological condition, usually we have really good effect on. Even things like immune problems, like ear infections. I just had a dog in today that had chronic ear infections, and a lot of times just adjusting that first vertebrae in the neck can help the immune system function better. And usually I don't have a dog come in for specifically that, but I ask all of the health problems that are going on, and chronic ear infections will get mentioned, and I'll go, oh, you might see this clear up too with chiropractic care. And then like a month later, the owner will come in and go, you know what? My dog
Wow.
hasn't had an ear infection since we started. So it's really cool to see that sort of thing. I see a lot of sport dogs too, because if a sport dog is getting adjusted, just like a human athlete, they're going to perform better. They're going to have better longevity in the sport. They're going to be less prone to injury because if everything is moving as it should, and say they do have a misstep or something or a fall, it's all more fluid into that. So it tends to not be a major injury. So usually we can recover from it. So it's lots of different reasons that people seek care. Pain, limps, those are probably the most common things. Disc injuries, probably also very common. I also get seizures, ataxia, so that's drunken wobbly gait. I know you know this, but just so your viewers also know what
Oh yeah.
ataxia means.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Paralysis cases. So we're just restoring nerve flow, basically taking any of those roadblocks down so that the brain can properly communicate with the body and the body back up to the brain. So even sometimes with organ problems, I've had people where their dogs have elevated kidney enzymes and or kidney levels, and we get them adjusted, and suddenly those kidney levels start dropping into that normal range. And it's just because now that area where those spinal nerves go to the kidneys are functioning better, and so the kidneys are working as they should. So it doesn't happen in every case, but hey, it's worth a try.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. I had no idea. I love that I'm coming into this episode really not knowing
yeah,
anything
no,
about this
that's
because
great.
my face is like complete. You're blowing my mind right now.
My own dogs and cat and parrot, they get adjusted all the time. So a lot of times they'll do stupid things in the yard, especially my German Shepherd and my Italian Greyhound. They like chase each other, then plow into each other, and then they're like, hey, can you fix us?
Yeah. I could totally see that, especially the big ones. They're so goofy and they just have no coordination no matter how old they get. I really like that you put this forward as such an important part of preventative care, not just reactive care.
Uh-huh.
And that's a great way to think about it. Of course, I have really only recommended people once they come see me and they're like, "Well, I tried this, that, the other thing." And I'm like, "You need to go see a chiropractor." But
Yeah.
I've never thought about it from the aspect of
Wellness.
almost like how you have your 6 month dental cleaning, right? It's you're not
Yes.
going because you had a
Uh-huh.
cavity, you're going because you want to keep your teeth clean and keep an eye
Yeah.
out for things that could be a problem down the line. Doing the same thing with something like this is an excellent way to make sure that you have great
Yeah.
mobility and things are functioning well. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
Oof.
And with the dentist, you can pull a tooth, you could put in a fake tooth. You can't
Mm-hmm.
just, you only have one spine. You can't just pull out a
Mm-hmm.
vertebrae if
Ugh,
if
I
it's gone.
know.
or a disc if it's gone bad. Well, they do pull out discs and then they fuse the vertebrae, but
Yeah,
really, you
yeah,
only have one spine and you can't
yeah.
just easily do something with it once something has gone wrong.
Yeah. I have a coworker and she has a little dachshund. She's so cute. Oh my gosh, this dog. And she had to have surgery. This dog is a little psychopath in the cutest way, of course, but it's like boundless energy zipping back
Yes.
and forth all the time. And she has all of the stairs for her and all of the
Oh
equipment for
no.
her, but she still jumps on and off the couch. She jumps over things. She's jumped off beds. She's jumped over like blockades trying to keep her in
Yeah.
place. And unfortunately, one day she was yelping, she was limping, and she had a really bad herniated disc, and she actually did end up having to have surgery. And
Mhm.
it was so frustrating because she re-injured herself then a few months later after she had
Oh
healed. And
God. Uh-huh.
so now they're working toward kind of more prevention based and
Mhm.
completely switched the diet to fresh food. They're using a full spectrum hemp extract for
Okay.
inflammation and just endocannabinoid support. And one thing that I did recommend was starting chiropractic care. So she's going to be looking into finding somebody local to the Bay Area. I know of
Mhm.
one person and they travel around and
Okay.
they're in very high demand because there are
Yeah.
not too many, unfortunately, even in the California Bay Area, which is like the holistic capital of the world.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
dachshunds in general, well, dachshunds are probably one of the most common breeds that I see because of their long backs and their short limbs. It makes them prone to spinal injury, but
Yep.
then they have been bred to be fearless. So you have a dog that's prone to spinal injury, like major spinal injury, and it's bred to be fearless. So they just go, woo, jumping up of things. And yeah, a lot of them end up in that state, unfortunately. So
Ugh.
I do see a lot where they're finding out that chiropractic can help prevent that. So I do get a lot that come in before any problems show up. And then, of course, I do see a lot where they're in that state, either a disc injury, paralysis, that sort of thing. And they usually
Yeah.
respond pretty well. So
That's so excellent.
Frenchies are the other one, Frenchies, and they tend to be, even if they have a major disc injury, they are zipping around the room and I'm going, how are you doing this?
The little ones,
Any
man, they
other
think
dog
they're
would be like,
invincible.
yeah.
It's like little kids, perpetual kids. They think they're
Yeah.
completely indestructible. Oh my gosh. So then I would imagine that a lot of the animals that come to you are probably in pain. They're inflamed, maybe they're anxious, maybe it's a new situation and they're not used to the office. How are you able to get these animals relaxed enough to accept an adjustment or for it to be, I guess, effective?
Yeah, so the first time they might be a little nervous. Totally understandable. New person, new place. They're doing different things to me. So we do a lot of things just to try and keep our space just more calm, more warm, like inviting sort of thing. I do also work out of an animal hospital, and we actually find I have some clients that come here at my office because it is a calmer atmosphere. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sure you're used to the hospital atmosphere. It can be a bit chaotic,
Insanity. Yeah.
and that can make the patients more stressed. So I do have some that they've seen me up at the animal hospital and they've also seen me here and they go, my dog is so much calmer there because we don't have all that chaos going on around us. So we do try and be mindful of our actual space. We have a big mat on the ground. So if they're scared of tables, I adjust them down on the mat. Um, I do have calming oils that I can use with them. Most do okay. If we need to take a break in the beginning and give them a little space to walk around, shake off, come back, that's fine. But
Mhm.
usually after that first or second adjustment, it's like the light bulb goes off and they're like, hey, I feel better after going there. I get a treat in my belly. This is all good stuff. So we have a lot of pets that absolutely love coming in. So
Mm.
they will immediately want to come down to the treatment room, whether here I'm in one certain room at the animal hospital and they all try and beeline for that room instead of going to the other ones because the other ones mean other things are getting done to them. So, so animals are smart. They figure it out. So that really does make my job easier. Of course, not every dog, not 100% of the dogs or cats coming in are going to be that way. So sometimes we do have to put a muzzle on. Sometimes we do need some extra handling. Sometimes we need a towel with a cat. For whatever reason, cats are calmer with the towel over their head. You would think that would absolutely startle anybody, but cats, you put the towel over their head, they can't see anything. They're like, oh, I think I can do this now. So with parrots, a lot of times I put them in what I call a birdie burrito, and it's just taking a towel around their body and their little head pokes out. And so they get to chew on the towel. I hand them a little piece and I say, go ahead, make your little holes in the towel. And then I reach underneath and start checking them. So we have ways to try and make them more comfortable. Is every pet that comes in the door going to be comfortable? They're not, but most, I would say, probably 95% of the pets that come in actually either are neutral or to the point of like, oh my gosh, this is the best day ever.
Yeah,
So,
that's
uh,
awesome.
so yeah, there's lots of different ways. Not everyone's gonna act the same. So we just have to do whatever we have to do to try and make it a positive experience.
I'm
So.
gonna have to troll your Instagram for a birdie burrito video. I need to see what this looks like. So how long, I guess how long is a session then? Like are you adjusting multiple areas at once, or do they have to maybe come
Whatever
back
they
if you're
need.
focusing?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I will check everything at every visit, unless they are in a super stressful state, where I feel like just going too far, not too far, going for too long is going to just make them so stressed that they might not even hold their adjustment. So that's more with the
Mm.
wildlife that I work with. Sometimes I will only adjust their neck and then say, okay, they can go back to their enclosure. With most of our domesticated animals, our pets, they do just fine getting everything checked. So, yeah, I check every single vertebrae, every single joint in the body, check movement, check its business. Well, I can't talk positioning and adjust wherever it's needed. So, for a follow up visit, it's about 15 minutes. Our first visit, we allow a little bit more time. We allow a half hour because we're going to talk about the history. We're going to get the pet examined first, see what's not moving right, even check like neurological things like conscious proprioception, where I will knuckle a foot, see if they can flip it back, things like that. So that takes more time. So first visit, half hour, follow-ups, 15 minutes. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be adjusting all 15 minutes. Like if you were going to go for a 60-minute massage, they're going to be massaging you all 60 minutes. It just takes however long it takes for me to get through every single joint in the body. So if a dog is standing really perfectly still and nice, it's pretty darn fast. If they are a wiggle worm, then it's going to take longer.
Yes, yes. If they're like my golden retriever, it's gonna take 5 hours, not 15 minutes. No. So you said wildlife, and now I'm fascinated. What can you tell me what you do? I know that you volunteer at wildlife centers.
Yeah.
What are you doing for them?
Chiropractic care. So, yeah. So, I volunteer my chiropractic services for a local wildlife center. So, I've seen pretty much all the types of native wildlife to Illinois. I've seen a lot of Canada geese. They unfortunately a lot of times get hit by cars. I've seen a lot of ducks, opossums, raccoons, a lot of birds, hawks,
Yeah.
owls, even a snapping turtle, uh, squirrels, chipmunks. A chipmunk has been the only one to bite me out of all my wildlife patients. Cottontails, deer. I feel like I'm missing some, but yeah, I've seen a lot.
Wow.
And the Wildlife Center would crack me up because one of the past directors would just put a whole list for me, and we don't really know their history. They were just found in an injured state. So it'd be like
Yeah.
goose with the leg that doesn't work, chipmunk with the head tilt. And it would just be like all these random things and go, okay, well, I could check them out, see if anything needs to be adjusted. And I mean, with the wildlife, if you give them an inch, they take it a mile because their survival depends on it. So if they're gonna respond, they tend to respond pretty fast. Like with
Mm.
our dogs, I feel like we go for a lot of conditions weekly for that first month. A lot of the wildlife patients that I see, I might adjust them one, two times and they get released. So,
Wow.
even with major things going on, like there was a cormorant. I don't know if you know what a cormorant is, but it's a
Mm-mm.
bird and it's not a waterproof bird. So they dive and they spear fish with their beak and then they flip their head back and swallow that fish whole. and you'll see them along like rivers, and they have their wings up because they have to dry their wings off before they can fly. And so there was a cormorant, and they weren't able to eat. So they were brought to the wildlife center, and their neck was so restricted right in the middle of that cervical spine. And so I adjusted him. The director came out with some fish to see what he could do, and immediately he followed the director over, grabbed a fish, and flipped his head back. And I went, "Oh, that's amazing!" Like it just made my
Oh my
day. And
God.
so I go, I would really like to see him one more time, because once they're out in the wild, like it's not like we could, oh, let's do a follow up. We don't know where they go. So I
Yeah.
really wanted to make sure his neck was stable and would hold, and he could live his normal cormorant life. So I saw him a second time, and it was just amazing. Like they just take that inch and go a mile with it, just because if they're down in the wild, they're a goner. So
Yeah.
it's just amazing to see their response.
Phenomenal. I love so much that you volunteer there and you help them with that. I love all creatures except I don't know if you saw my face. I hail from Buffalo, New York, and let me tell you, Canadian geese are like the scourge of Buffalo, New. They're very
Oh
scary.
no.
They're very large and they hiss and they will chase you if they don't want you near them. So I give Canadian geese a wide berth, but I like everything else.
As long as
Oh
you
my
give them space, they're fine. I actually had a paralyzed Canada goose that I was working on, and so I had to see them multiple times. So I would just go get them out of their enclosure, plop them down on the table, start checking their neck, and they got to know me, and they were totally fine with me handling them. And I'm going like, uh-oh, this isn't going to be good, because we don't want wildlife thinking that humans are going to be friendly with them out in the wild, or even for them to be approaching people,
Yeah.
especially a goose, because some people abuse geese just because they're geese. And so I'm going, oh no, like what are we going to do? Because this goose is just totally tame with me handling them. And then at that moment of my thought, the director of the wildlife center came over to say something to me, and they immediately turned and started hissing at them. I go, okay, so if we see each other like out on the sidewalk, it'll be okay. Everyone else, you do that too. So, but yeah, there's been probably the most heartbreaking cases have been with geese. Um, we had one where the male had severe neurological condition, just symptoms, because somebody was hitting them with a wooden board. And he wouldn't leave, because some people were like, well, why wouldn't he just fly away? He's a goose. Because the rest of his family was there. His mate, all of his goslings were there. So he was standing in front of them to take that beating so that they could stay alive. So when he was picked up by the wildlife center, they actually took his entire family in so that they could still be together, because he just was so bonded with them. And that's how geese
Yeah.
are. They're very family oriented. And so they all got to go to the wildlife center together, which is kind of unheard of. They usually don't have the room for something like that. But in the process of him receiving care, we got all of his neurological conditions to clear about 95%. If you looked at him, you could still see, yeah, there's maybe a little like funny hitch and maybe a little head tilt here or there, but he could live his normal goose life. They adopted like 7 other goslings that were orphaned while they were there. So then the whole family and adopted goslings that the wildlife center had taken in as orphans all got released together. So it was a beautiful story. But yeah, some of the most heart-wrenching cases where it's like, why do people do what they do, have been with geese.
I
So
know. I don't know why people are mean. I don't know what kind of person you have to be to do that to an animal. I might be terrified of geese and I'll run away from them, but I would never. I'll tell you one thing. I'll never be running toward them. I'll give you that.
yeah.
So
Oh,
I want to talk a little bit more about nutrition because you open up FarmCraft, and now I know that it was previously called Farm to Bowl.
yes.
I didn't think to ask this before. Why did you change the name? I saw it when I was first looking it up, a similar name, and I
Oh, okay.
realized it was not yours. I was wondering if it was because somebody tried to like steal.
So there have been a few raw food companies out there. that have in their advertising been saying we're farm to bowl and with the
Mm,
dashes and the number two and everything. So I was thinking if they legitimately were saying that they're farm to bowl, they would write out farm, the word to, and the word bowl, but they had it
yeah.
listed exactly as our brand was. We had so many people steal our stuff too in the beginning. Even
Oh
we had
my
somebody
God.
in our own state open a very similarly named business, steal our logo. They just made it look a little bit different, and they even copied our website. And I built our very first website, so I know exactly how the design was. And I look at their website, going, they even used the same little banner and everything.
Oh my
So
God. Why are
it,
people this way?
it's been, yeah, it had been frustrating.
Oh,
So we were going to do a rebrand anyway because we wanted a new look and all of that. And then we thought to ourselves, well, do we change the name too? Because we're dealing with this. And we said, well, if we're going to do it, now's the perfect time. So we changed over to FarmCraft.
yeah.
It's a little bit shorter, sweeter. I still sometimes catch myself saying farm to bowl because I've just said it for so long. So I
Yeah.
still have
Yeah.
to turn over my brain to the new name. But yeah, we have a whole great new look where we had actual designers come in versus my own design. Designers like build it out for us and everything, the new branding. So it's been
Yeah.
awesome. And we really like the new look and the new name. And now everything is protected. It has the trademarks and all that. So if anybody tries to steal our stuff, then they're going to get a cease and desist letter.
Good,
So,
good, good.
um,
And I love the name FarmCraft anyways. It's really cool
uh,
because I like how it pulls it, it makes you think of handcrafted things, right? And this
yeah,
is very much like that, right? Because
yes,
everything is right there on the farm, which I find so
yeah,
unique and fascinating.
yeah,
So
yeah.
please tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't know of any other raw food company that really does not outsource anything. So we we raise all of the animals. I don't. I say we as a brand.
Yeah.
I'm up here in the Chicagoland area. They're down there about an hour and a half away. So I don't do the farming. I do the content and the customer care and all of that. And I have an assistant that helps me with that too. But we raise all of the animals ourselves, have our own breeding programs. We even grow a lot of their own feed. We do a lot of we do all of the processing in our own USDA licensed facilities. We have our own air chilling facility. So um, most of the poultry in the US is put in a bleach water bath. So yeah, it's
It's so
disgusting.
gross.
And so
Yeah.
that means if you're eating chicken, even bought from the grocery store, if it doesn't say air chilled on it, it has soaked in a bleach water bath with who knows what else in the bleach water bath. And that's why you get those little, what are they called? Those little square absorbent pads
Yeah.
in with the chicken because it absorbs the leftovers from the bleach water. And when you
Hmm.
defrost a chicken breast and you see that watery stuff seep out, that's remnants from the bleach water. So uh, if you eat poultry, buy air chilled.
Yep,
So
that is
all
the
of our
only
poultry
poultry
is,
I'll buy because it is
yeah.
absolutely disgusting. For years, I would say, "Why does chicken smell like chlorine?" And my grandma
Oh,
would be
you
like,
could
"No, it
actually pick
doesn't.
it
Your
up.
nose is so sensitive." It does.
Uh-huh.
It's bleach, though. Okay, cool. So you
Yeah,
have your own
yeah.
air chilling as well. That's amazing. You have it all.
Yeah, so we have one of the few facilities in the U.S. So that means instead of soaking in a bleach water bath, all of the turkeys or chickens, they have nice, cool, pure, fresh, clean air on them to bring the temperature down. So it's a lot cleaner of a processing method. It's the European standard, but the USA standard is bleach water. So yeah, so we do all the processing, we do all the chubs, we have our own freezer space, everything comes straight from us. So
Wow. So they're raised there, they're slaughtered there, they're prepared there, the grind is done there, and then it
yes,
goes out to the consumer.
yes,
That's so amazing. And
yeah.
you have a lot of different animal proteins, I noticed, which when I was going through all of them on the website, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe the variety that you guys have. Can you tell us about some of the ones that you offer? Some are, because
Yeah,
some I think people would not normally be using.
we offer 8 different regular proteins. So that is turkey, boar, chicken, beef, ram, duck, um, rabbit, and goat.
Yeah.
And then we offer one seasonal protein, and that is venison. It's like our pumpkin spice latte of the raw feeding world. And that's the only one that we do not raise ourselves. So
Mhm.
our venison are wild caught. So
Oh, great.
everything else, all of our regular proteins are raised by us. The venison we bring in special. So, and that comes in usually late fall and it will last until probably early spring. So, but yeah, a lot of people, as soon as fall hits, they're like, do you have the venison? And it just looks so beautiful, just that nice deep coloration.
Yeah.
But yeah, using ram, that is a male sheep. So typically people don't want to eat ram because it's going to be
Mhm.
probably a little bit more gamey tasting than eating like lamb or mutton or something along those lines. So we're basically using that, and dogs and cats, they love it. It's a higher fat protein, so we don't recommend starting out with it because we don't cut the fat. A lot of dog food companies, cat food companies will cut the fat because if you have duck or ram or even lamb or mutton with the full fat content, it tends to be pretty high. It tends to be in like the 20% range. So you want them to get acclimated to an average or lower fat protein first. And then a lot of times, like in the wintertime when it's super dry, feeding those higher fat proteins gives that nice glistening coat, that skin support and all of that. So yeah, we enjoy being able to offer so many different proteins because we know some people can't feed every single protein to
Yeah.
their dog or cat. So
Yeah, rabbit is hard to come by for raw feeders. Not a lot of companies offer it, and some of
mhm.
them I know export, and it can be really pricey. And so I like that you
Yeah,
have the rabbit to offer too, because that can be a tough one for people, and especially when you're
yeah.
starting to run into animals who maybe are limited on the proteins they can have
Mhm.
while you're working on maybe fixing their leaky gut or other
Yes.
things that cause those
Uh-huh.
sensitivities. Rabbit can be a great one for them. So I love that you have that one too.
Yeah, yeah. Rabbit and goat, they tend to work really well when dogs are going through a lot of different things or super sensitive gut. And something that I learned in the process, I've learned a lot about farming in the process of being partners with a farmer, in that rabbits can be a little difficult to raise because, for one, you have a much smaller animal, so you have to have a lot higher quantity of them to make like each case of raw food, and they don't breed prolifically like everyone thinks that they do. So we actually had a time where we were running short on rabbit, and so we had to figure out like what to do to get that rabbit supply up because there weren't a lot of people offering it. So I feel like a bunch of people came to us, and then oh no, our rabbit's out of stock. So we had to really up the amount of rabbit that we raise because of that. So now it's been pretty good. We've been able to stay pretty consistent. But that was um, that one protein where it was like, oh no, like we're running out. So
Aside from the fact that you raise all the animals on the farm, you also, and I say you, I know you said you as a company,
yeah.
it also grow most of the food that the animals are eating, which like what a venture. This must be like a huge operation. I can't even imagine like how the span that this would take up. So
Yeah.
I mean there's a lot of different I was reading the different things that the animals eat, and there was a huge variety. So is the
Mhm.
majority of that is grown there?
Yes. So, Lego Farms, where we're raising all of the FarmCraft animals and all of that, they actually have an organic crop farm certificate. So, any of the crops grown by Lego Farms is an organic crop. So, whether is even something like oats or alfalfa, they're growing it organically. We do have to supplement bringing in some outside food. It depends on the year, it depends on the weather, some
Mhm.
supplemental. And so that is a little more conventional, but it still is non-GMO that we bring in. But a lot of the food that they're eating, most of the food that they're eating is grown by Sligo Farms themselves too.
That's so excellent. And what I try to tell people is as much as in an ideal world, it would be lovely for every single thing that we put in our bodies to be
Right.
organic, grass-fed,
Uh-huh.
grass-finished, regeneratively raised, completely pastured.
Yes.
It's nearly
Uh-huh.
impossible. You wouldn't be able to afford to live. So I
Right.
say, try you do the best that you can, right? Follow the dirty dozen and, the clean
Hmm.
15 and try and get
Hmm.
grass fed if you can. And if it's only grass fed and it's not grass finished, well, you still had, less
Yeah.
grains than a
Right.
completely like a feedlot cow, for
Yeah.
example. So
Yeah.
yeah, and so I think it would be unrealistic to say 100% every single thing that goes in is organic. But the fact that so much of this, you know exactly where all of the sourcing is, which has been a huge problem for
Yes.
companies. I'm
Yeah.
very picky about who I recommend to my clients. And when I call a company and I say, well, where do you get this? And they'll be like, oh, I don't know. It's different suppliers each time. Or they can say where they get, for example, their chickens from, but they can't tell me what those chickens are fed, where they get their
Uh-huh.
chickens from. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want anything to do with you then because you can't tell me about your own products. So
Yeah.
I love that this is all central sourcing. You know where it's coming from. Organic certification for the farm is amazing. And then it sounds like really clean and humane, excellent slaughter practices and everything is in-house. So that is just so phenomenal. What a venture.
Yeah, yeah, it's been fun and it's been amazing even just seeing stories come in of people saying how much it's changed their pets' lives. Like in the process of rebranding from Farm to Bowl to FarmCraft, we had a website glitch where anyone that paid with PayPal, it did not go through. So I had to call them up personally and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, you already received your order, but," and I felt so, I'm like, this looks really bad. And so I'm like, if you look at your PayPal account, you'll see that the payment got canceled because it wasn't set up properly by our designers and all that. And they were like, oh no, like, let me send it. And they go, while you're on the phone, can I tell you how much has changed my dog's life? And so I was like, oh, well,
Oh,
yeah. So
I love
it
that.
it turned into like a really awesome thing. I felt horrible like having to do this. I'm like, guys, like this has never happened before. I feel unprofessional having to call and say, hey, your payment, because the new website wasn't working properly.
Yep.
But they were so excited to actually talk to me on the phone and say how much their dog or cat's life is better because of it. So it just made my day. So something that I was kind of cringing before, being like, oh, I have to call these people, to afterwards, I'm like, that was so amazing. So,
That's so awesome. Yep. You can't hide the improvement and you can't fake what fresh food does for you. So I'm so glad to hear that.
yeah.
So tell us, how can people find you and find your products?
Yeah. So if you go to kind of my hub for everything, so whether you're seeking out FarmCraft or chiropractic care or whatever, if you go to drerinoconnor.com, so DRERINOCONNOR.com, that will link up to everything. If you still want to go straight to the website, farmcraft.pet, vitalityanimalchiro.com. I'm on Instagram, Dr. Erin O'Connor. Uh, I also have Instagram for FarmCraft. That's under FarmCraft Raw. We're over on Facebook as well, Vitality Animal Chiropractic and FarmCraft Raw. So you could find us just about everywhere.
Awesome. Yes, definitely. And I'll put all of
Awesome.
that in the show notes for people so that they can just click on it. But definitely follow the videos because I love watching all of the videos of animals just
Thanks.
getting adjusted and being in the clinic and all of the
Oh,
educational stuff that you share. So for sure, for sure. So thank
awesome.
you so much. This was amazing. I feel like my horizons have been expanded and I feel very
Good.
motivated now to reach
Awesome.
out to that chiropractor that's local to me
Yeah.
and just get an appointment and just step in and wait in and see what it's like. So,
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, I'm sure your animals, with everything that you're doing, they're super healthy. But sometimes you might just notice, oh, they have more energy. They're doing the
mhm.
stairs better, things like that, the little things.
Yeah,
Um, so it makes a difference in the long run.
awesome. I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I hope that we'll be able to chat more soon and maybe I'll
Yeah.
see you around. Actually, we're moving back to New York.
Oh,
So I'm gonna be
wow.
much closer. Yeah, I'll be much just a lake away from Chicago. So, or from Illinois. But all right, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Dr. Erin, thank you so much for coming on with us, and
Thanks for
hopefully
having me.
I will talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Please remember that you, yes, you, are the driving force that helps keep small businesses and platforms like mine running. So if you liked what you heard, please like, share, and most importantly, rate this podcast. It's the only way we can reach more people and spread the word about natural health. None of the conditions discussed or recommendations given are meant to replace the advice of your health provider. So if you have concerns about yourself or your pets, please confer with a human or animal health practitioner. Have a super fantastic day, and I'll see you next week.